Welcome back to this workshop on entering a community. We started with involve other local churches. We talked about identifying the needs. We talked about indigenous solutions. And now let's talk about how to implement holistically. And we're going to be discussing the Great Commission and the Great Commandment. The purpose of this activity is to provide participants with the basis for a holistic approach to life transformation in your community. This activity will help participants to start pieceworks that are truly holistic, addressing the physical, social, mental, and spiritual needs of people. And the objectives are that participants see that Jesus came to meet the needs of the whole person, not just one aspect of his being. Participants understand that Jesus commands his followers to meet the needs of the whole person. Participants understand how all 5 letters of peace can be implemented simultaneously. And participants will share a holistic piecework that they've done or will plan to do in the future that address the whole person, including spiritual, emotional, and physical needs. So first, start with the reader's theater to introduce how people sometimes focus on a single dimension of ministering to the needs of people without realizing Jesus commands us to serve the whole person. Ask 2 participants to role play 2 people arguing over which is more important, addressing spiritual or physical needs. And here's what the readers will say. Reader 1, the only thing that we should be concerned with as Christians is winning people to Christ. In Matthew 28:18 through 20 clearly tells us that. And then reader 2 says, you're wrong. The Bible tells us we should be concerned about the physical needs of people as well as their spiritual needs. In Matthew 22:37 to 40, we are to love others. And in Matthew 25:35 to 40 says that when we help a person physically, we're ministering to Jesus. What about the teaching of the Good Samaritan? And reader 1 replies, what good is it to save a man's life physically if he's going to spend eternity in hell? And reader 2 replies, how can a man listen to the gospel when he's dying of hunger? Point 2, Jesus came to minister to the whole person. Have someone read Luke 4:16 to 21 to the group. Then discuss the questions below. At what point in Jesus' ministry did this interaction take place? Well, the answer is at the beginning of his public ministry after being tempted in the wilderness for 40 days. And then you ask, where did this take place? Well, the answer is at the synagogue in his hometown of Nazareth. And then you'll ask, what is the significance of the timing of this declaration? Well, Jesus was stating his purpose or mission as well as defining the nature of his work. Then say, what do the scriptures say about why Jesus came? Well, A, to preach the gospel to the poor. B, to proclaim release to the captives. And C, to give sight to the blind. Tell participants, Jesus came with concern for every area of our lives. His mission was to restore wholeness to a lost and broken world. He would address not only spiritual concerns, but physical, social, and emotional concerns as well. And then third, Jesus commands his followers to minister to a whole person. Have someone read the scriptures below to the group, and then use the questions that follow to guide a discussion. Start with Luke chapter 10, verse 27. What do we learn from the use of the word all in Luke 10:27? We're to love God with our whole being, heart, which is our emotion, soul, which is spiritual, mind, which is intellect, and strength, which is physical. Then look at Matthew 28:18 through 20. What do we learn from the use of the word all in Matthew 28:18 through 20? Well, A, all authority belongs to Jesus. B, all nations, meaning peoples, are to be discipled. And C, all Jesus taught is to be obeyed. This is a command within a command. We're to help others do what we're doing in following Christ. And then D, the promise. Jesus is with us at all times, even when we fail. Now, comparing the verses, Luke 10:27 and Matthew 20:18 through 20, there are 3 commands. Luke 10:27 says, love God and your neighbor. And Matthew 28:18 through 20 says, disciple all nations and obey all that Jesus taught. What do these 3 commands in these verses have in common? Well, all 3 commands are from God and are given with equal authority. And how are the 3 commands related to each other? In obeying the command of Christ to make disciples, We must teach love for God and neighbor. Now, fourth, Jesus judges his followers for the way they respond to the needs of the whole person. Have someone read Matthew 25, 35 to 46 to the group. Then discuss the questions below. What is the basis of Jesus' judgment in these verses? Well, Jesus based his judgment on how people responded to the needs of others. And then what kinds of needs are met by those who are judged to be righteous? Well, A, for hunger, they were fed. And B, for thirst, they were given drink. And C, the homeless were provided for. D, nakedness, they were clothed. E, sickness, they were cared for. And F, those who were imprisoned were visited. Now tell the participants, Jesus did not say, I was hungry and you preached to me, or I was thirsty and you preached to me. He expects his followers to respond to people according to their need. Being responsive to the needs of others and obedient to both the Great Commandment and the Great Commission will take very great commitment. Fifth, Jesus sends out his disciples. Have someone read Luke 9, verses 1 and 2, and Luke 10, verse 1, and then 8 through 9 to the group. Then discuss the questions below. Who did Jesus send out to do what? He sent out 12 to heal, preach, and cast out demons, and he sent out 72 to heal and preach. What should we do as Jesus' disciples today? Well, we should do the same things dealing with the whole person. Now, sixth, in conclusion, ask the group the following questions. What does this teach us about the kind of peace work we should have? We need to do our peace work like Jesus and minister to people according to their need. Our ministry should be holistic. And what type of holistic peace work could be done in the future that addresses a person's physical, emotional, and spiritual needs? Seventh, with reflection and prayer, ask the group to consider the following questions and evaluate whether or not there is balance in their lives and ministries. When was the last time you led another person to faith in Christ? When was the last time you helped a new believer begin to grow on the road to maturity? When was the last time you helped another person to become a disciple of Christ? When was the last time you helped to meet a neighbor's physical need or problem? When was the last time you helped someone to grow in such a way that they can do for someone else what you've done for them? And then tell the group this. The peace plan is a holistic strategy that will enable you to bring balance to your peace works by being responsive to the needs of people in the communities you serve. This activity is aimed at equipping people to serve the whole need of the individual and to be obedient to both the Great Commandment and the Great Commission. So spend some time as peace leaders discussing how you can implement holistically in your peace works.